Hi, Mirta. It's Michelle. I'm doing the Zoom part. Ashley is doing the eScribe part, and I believe I am ready to go when you are. I'll just double check with Ashley.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
I'm ready to go too, Michelle.
Okay, just 1 minute. Okay, let's get going so that we can ensure we have enough time. So good morning, everyone. I believe I have the pleasure to chair the very first committee meeting of 2021. So happy New Year to everyone. We continue to meet virtually. And Michelle, if you could put the information up for members of the community to know how they can join us, great. So you can go to the city's website, webcasts, in order to find the agenda, in order to provide public comment. If you can use the hand feature to let us know you want to provide public comment. And Michelle, if we can, yes, thank you. If you are dialing in, you can use *9 to raise your hand, and again, press 9 to lower your hand, and *6 to unmute and mute your phone. You can always leave us a message. You can call 406-552-6012. That's a voicemail for all City Council members. And you can also email us at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. So with that, we will go to see if we have any public who can give us public comment. Actually, before we do that, let's see who is in attendance. Michelle, could you do a roll call for attendance, please?
Anderson? Becerra?
Present.
Pontos?
Here.
Harp?
Present.
Hess?
Present.
Jones?
Present.
Merritt?
Present.
Ramos?
Present.
Cheryl?
Present.
Vasika?
Present.
Von Lossberg?
Here.
West?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And I believe I did things a little bit out of order or differently, but it's 2021. So we already let people know how they can join the meeting and provide public comment. We did take attendance, and the next thing for us would be to approve minutes from our December 2020 last committee meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, those will stand approved. And now we can see if we have any public comment. I see Commissioner Strohmeyer, Kevin Slovarp, and Thompson Smith. Public comment, Mr. or whoever is Thompson Smith.
I'm just happy to be here. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm Thompson Smith. I'm the coordinator of history and geography projects for the Salish Kalispel Culture Committee with the Salish and Cooney tribes. So just happy
Great.
to watch. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks for joining us. So next we have our first item of business, and that is an appointment to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board. The recommendation is for us to confirm the mayor's appointment of Chris Surgener to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Board. That's a term that expires on September 30th of 2023. And I do need a motion from someone. Amber.
I'm happy to make that motion.
Thank you. I would like to thank Mr. Surgener for wanting to serve on this board as we continue to grow in Missoula. I think the advice that comes out of that board is very important. So I thank you for participating on that board and serving your community. So we have a motion on the floor. Michelle, could you tell roll call vote, please?
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Vasika,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
okay, thank you. That's 10 yeses.
Great. So that will be on our consent agenda. I should probably take some public comment for that item, but since we don't have anyone, I will assume we don't have any. And we will move to our second item on the agenda. It's the proposal to rename the Higgins Avenue Bridge. And I will let Commissioner Strohmeyer introduce this very important project. So go ahead, Dave, if you can unmute yourself.
Thanks, Marita, and thanks, members of the council, for allowing me a few minutes of your time to just bring you up to speed on something that I've been working on for a couple of years now. So, as some of you may know, or many of you may not know, the year 2021 marks the 130th anniversary of the forced removal of the Bitterroot Salish out of the Bitterroot Valley up to the Flathead Reservation. And I guess it was ever since I served on the city council, it's been a number of years ago now, I was struck by, and for full disclosure, I live right downtown on East Pine Street. So just down the street from the city council chambers and my office with Missoula County. And in walking to work every day, it has always struck me interesting that the infrastructure in our community that I pass and I'm most familiar with has names attached to it after species of trees or American presidents or Caucasian members of this community, the fathers of this community back in the day. And I say fathers specifically because it is typically men after whom these things are typically named. Yet we sit, all of us who are on the line here today, and when you're either in your respective offices or in your homes, are in the midst of the Aboriginal territory of the Bitterroot Salish, yet the symbols by which we attach meaning and significance and names are by and large bereft of any reference to the native inhabitants of this place. And this is not just a matter of antiquarianism, looking back into history, but Native peoples are members of our community today, and the heritage of the Salish and Kalispel people lives on in our midst to the present time, and will so move into the future. So in thinking about the upcoming and now current reconstruction of the Higgins Avenue Bridge, it struck me as an opportunity of maybe to some extent redemption on our parts, and also to weave into the fabric, the literal fabric of the infrastructure of this community, recognition of the importance of the Native peoples who also call this place home. So with that, I reached out to the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes, specifically the Salish and Kalispel Culture Committee, for whom we have a staff representative on the line here today, and just put the question to them, okay, if we were to do such a thing, what might be some possible names for this piece of infrastructure? And so that's where we are at today. There's nothing definitive that has been decided upon. There are some recommendations. I think that the Culture Committee has been kicking around as possibilities. I would suspect that once they land on what they would see as an appropriate name would be, that would then move forward to the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes Tribal Council for a recommendation. And this is not unlike the process by which the county went through when we renamed our public meeting space, the Sophie Moise Room, a number of years ago, in recognition of a revered tribal member, Sophie Moise, who played a big role in the tribe's culture and heritage, and for whom we are now making that publicly known in the midst of our governance structure. So something similar would probably play out in the case at hand. There are two ways in which a piece of state infrastructure, and what we're talking about is owned by the state of Montana Department of Transportation, the Higgins Avenue Bridge. There are two ways in which a piece of infrastructure like that is dedicated or renamed or named in the first place. And who would have thought that there would be a whole bureaucracy related to changing the name of something? And lo and behold, there is. And there are two paths forward here. One is by an official action of the state legislature, which we all know is a super easy path to move anything through. The other path, and I think this is what I would call the path of least resistance, and is certainly what has been indicated as supported by the tribes as the path forward, would be to take a proposal like this to the Transportation Commission, the Montana Transportation Commission, and they have the latitude and the authority to take action on designating a piece of infrastructure like this with a specific name other than the current generic name, which is the bridge over the bridge over the Clark Fork River that is crossed by the Higgins Avenue. By Higgins Avenue. So anyway, a lot of words there for what I think is a fairly simple proposal, and that is to recognize the tribal heritage in this place by way of naming a piece of significant infrastructure. The only other thing I would just add is that some might say, well, this is just pure symbolism and doesn't amount to much. Well, I would argue just the opposite. While you might say this is a symbolic recognition of the Native peoples who've inhabited this place for generations, that's not without importance, because that tells us where our values are. It is a cue for future generations to recognize and to learn from the way in which we name places, the value of these places are to current and past, certainly past and future generations. So there's an educational component here. There's a piece of recognition that we attribute to other places with non-native names. And I think it's just about time in this context of thinking about equity and justice and values that we associate with places, that there's a tribal component here that needs to be recognized. So with that, I would Chairwoman Becerra, I'd be more than willing to answer any questions that folks might have. If there's anything technical related to the Culture Committee, like I say, we have Thompson Smith on the line here who could answer any questions also. But my intent would be at some point in time to ask of the council and the mayor and the city of Missoula for support and a letter of recommendation. Hopefully that could be forwarded to the Transportation Commission for this proposal.
Great. Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you bringing this to us. We have to start somewhere, and recognition is one of the ways that we can get there. I think it's appropriate. I think it's sensible. And like you said, it's about time. So I'm happy to be learning more about this important proposal. I see a couple of hands up. I have John Contos.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, Dave, I'm curious. You spoke to some of the tribes about the naming of the bridge here. What was their response?
Yeah, so I spoke and have coordinated with the Tribal Council of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes of the Flathead Reservation, and also the Salish Kalispel Culture Committee, fully supportive, in fact, enthusiastically supportive of this.
I was just curious. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Well, and I would just add, Councilman Contos, that more often than not, what ends up happening is someone other than the tribes, meaning totally well, might take it upon themselves to decide upon what an appropriate name ought to be, and then only after the fact include or coordinate, whether collaborate with the tribes. Well, I can hardly say collaboration. It'd be more notification after the fact. And what I've sensed is a great deal of appreciation on the part of the tribes that they might be able to play an active role in helping decide what an appropriate name might be.
Great. Heather.
Dave, you know, I really appreciate the little history lesson that you gave us. You know, I talk oftentimes with people who are members of the public and talk about how every Wednesday when we come to this table, we really are learning a great deal of education. And as a historian, I really appreciate you sharing that context. It made me think about a time that both Jordan and I were in New Zealand and really got to see firsthand how that island has really dealt with its past. And working with the indigenous Maori tribes to really help rename and bring back respect and dignity for a whole collection of people that really had been marginalized. And I think the steps like this that you've undertaken really underline and underscore that same initiative. And when I think about it, there is so much healing that has to be done when it comes down to marginalized people. And I think this is just, it's a bureaucratic step, but it's a really, really important one that really honors the past and also carves a way forward for us. So thank you for undertaking this. And I look forward to hearing what the name is. I was delighted to hear Sue Tupkane for the Mullen area and Sophie Moyes for your room in the courthouse. Can't wait to hear what this next bridge or what our bridge will next be named. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Brian.
Thanks. Just quickly, Dave, I wanted to thank you for your work on this. Wanted to thank Mr. Smith for being in attendance and his involvement. Welcome. And I just want to be really clear, speaking as council president and for myself, not speaking on behalf of all of my colleagues, my unequivocal support for this. And the only question I have is if you have any idea now, or just let me know, Mirta and I know when the transportation committee meeting and sort of process there, and it will be a top priority to get a letter of recommendation and testimony in support of that. So thank you.
Great. Gwen.
Thanks. Thank you, Dave, for such a great idea and initiative. I really appreciate this. And assuming that this all goes well and the Montana Transportation Commission gives all of this a thumbs up, I would really like to have representatives from the tribe and the Cultural Council come back to council. And I would just love to hear more context and information about the name that they choose and provide us with some history from them and why they chose that name, what it means, et cetera. And then also, I think in about a year, this bridge should be completed and there will be opening ceremonies. And I really hope they are part of that also, and we can emphasize the name. So just put a pin in that, and we'll see everyone back soon with some specifics would be great.
You bet.
Great. Amber.
Thanks, Gwen. I will look forward to that as well. Dave, I just wanted to say I appreciate your leadership in this and just the thoughtful way you have gone about it. And I think that, you're right that good intentions sometimes get ahead of doing it the right way and including them early in this process. And I don't believe it's tokenism. I think it's important that we do this. Is it solving all the wrongs of the past? Absolutely not. But I think that it's an important step in honoring the culture. So anyway, thanks, Dave. I appreciate the way you're going about doing this.
Thanks.
I don't see any other hands up. Mr. Smith, is there anything you would like to add? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to give you an opportunity if you wanted to share anything.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Becerra, and wanted to express my appreciation to Commissioner Strohmeyer and to all of you for this opportunity. I think I'm always hesitant to speak on behalf of my colleagues, my boss, the tribal council, or anything, but I think it's safe to say that everyone appreciates it very much. That, as has been said, it is symbolic, but it's greater respect between Missoula and the CSKT. So this is an exciting, wonderful thing, and I'm happy to assist in any way. I'm kind of a worker bee behind the scenes on these kinds of things, and just in fact sent a little email this morning to Commissioner Strohmeyer about some of the history around the bridge, and the long history going back millennia of tribal parties moving back and forth across the river, which is, as I'm sure all of you well know, the Missoula area sitting right in the heart of these territories of not only importance, but continuing importance. So again, just my simple thanks and a happy new year to all of you.
Thank you. And happy new year to you as well. Well, Dave, I think, as you can see, we're very supportive of this. I don't want to speak for everyone, but for those of us who have share with you what we think or how we feel. I think we'll rely on you to let us know what the next steps are and how we can continue to collaborate and further this effort. I see one hand up. Jordan.
Thanks, and I apologize. I had to step away for a couple seconds. So if anyone mentioned this, my apologies. But I appreciate the work on this, and I'd encourage. I think it would be nice if there was an interpretive component, whether some kind of an interpretive exhibit, perhaps in Caras Park or somewhere proximate to the new bridge, that sheds light on this important and dark bit of our history, so I'd encourage work on that front as well.
That's a great point, Jordan. I can think of the Heritage Interpretive Plan as perhaps being a good platform for this. So more collaboration for sure. And yeah, thank you. Anything else, Dave, that you want to add? Closing remarks?
Only thank you for the time that you've allowed for me and Thompson to share a few thoughts on this. And I will absolutely keep you all in the loop on next steps and when we are able to both land on a name and get something scheduled before the Transportation Commission. And I will also coordinate with Thompson and his colleagues to see if they can come back and maybe explain or present in a little bit more detail whatever their recommendation ends up being on naming of this piece of infrastructure.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Smith, and everyone. And that concludes our committee meeting today. That's the last item on the agenda. So with that, we would be adjourned.